Okay, so it's back over to me. Now I think my sergeant's got an opportunity to maybe take a shot at these skitters that have come dangerously close. So I want to do that. I want to issue, in this case, I'm going to do a basic order again, much like Russell has just done. But I'm going to do what the CQC card. Now the CQC card does allow me to do some quite good close combat with my Aligned Corps Marines. However, the skitters are definitely more dangerous in close combat. I'm better with my gun. So I'm just going to play it for my basic attack order here at the bottom. Now, you notice I said before it matters about how many cards are currently attached to the unit. So because I want my sergeant to go again, and he's already got a card attached, in this case a winded card, I'm going to have to discard a card from hand to be allowed to play this card. And in fact, I'd have to discard a card to issue any order, which you might notice that with the standing order, I'd have to discard 2 cards if I was going to do that. So I need to discard a card from hand. I'm going to discard this take cover order. Put that there. Which is then going to let me go through an attack sequence. So, important with the attack sequence, I need to declare what weapon I'm using and who I'm going to attack. So, the Sarge here is going to use his battle rifle to take a shot at the skitter model here. So I'm going to target, well, I'm shooting the unit, but I will check my range to the nearest model. So I've got a 12-inch range on this battle rifle, so I'm well within 6 inches here. So measuring from closest point on my base to the closest point on the skitter's base, I am well within range to be able to attack with my battle rifle. So let's have a look how we're going to resolve that combat. So there's a couple of stats that are going to come into usage here, and we're going to talk a little bit through kind of how the combat kind of fundamentally works in War Trigger. So in War Trigger, you don't roll the dice, you don't need to draw a card. It's completely under your control as to what the results on your dice are going to be. And we use one of these dice proxy cards here. So this gives us the 3 types of symbol that you can have on your attack. And we're just going to use ordinary D6 to represent kind of how many of each of these symbols we're going to select. So as one of the first steps we do in combat is we can choose to use an enhancement. Now, an enhancement requires us to discard a card from our hand, and it gives us a bonus dice. I'm not going to worry about that for the minute. As the attacker, I have to declare that first. Are you wanting to discard a card for an enhancement?
No, I will not.
Okay. So then we just need to add up how many dice that we get to use. So on my offensive stat, I've got 5 white dice, which are the war dice. So I've got 5 war die and 1 of the red die, which is the elite die. Now what that means is I can pick up to 5 of the war die symbols from this top row, and I can pick up to 1 of the elite die symbols from the second row. I don't have any of the blue tech dice, so I can't pick any symbols from this bottom row with the Sarge. He's not using any super high tech here. One other thing that I'm able to do, and I do have to declare this to my opponent, I can exchange white die for red die, so I can exchange war die for elite die, but I'm not going to do that in this situation. So for your skitters, what do they get in their defense?
So each skitter generates 1 war and 1 elite die, but since I'm a unit of 2, I will get 2 war die in total and 2 elite die in total.
Brilliant. Okay, so you're going to get 2 from that first row of symbols and 2 symbols from the second row. Okay, so what we would do now at this point is we would set those in secret, and we can set them in any combination, right? So I've got 5 dice, five of these symbols at the top here I can pick. So I might try a few different things here. So I'm going to put a little bit there, I could have 3 of one, 1 of one, 1 of another, any combination that adds up to 5. And then I'm also going to get 1 of these. So let's do that. Okay, so I've made my selection.
I have made mine.
Okay, let's reveal and see what we went with. Ah, interesting. So we're going to go through what's called kind of the dice cancellation step. And there's a certain kind of order and procedure to this, which we have a quick reference for in here. But it's pretty straightforward. So you start off by cancelling as many criticals as possible. So I do have 1 critical. Do you have an evade?
I do have an evade.
In fact, you've got 2 evades. So you're going to go down to 1 evade, and I'm going to lose my critical here. So, okay, then we're going to cancel as many armour as possible with armour piercing. So do you have any armour piercing?
I have no armour piercing, but I do have armour.
Okay, so I do have 1 armour piercing. So my armour piercing, I'm going to use that to remove your armour. Mm-hmm. When that happens, whenever your armour protects you whenever your armour gets hit by armour piercing, you gain a winded card.
I'll put that. Just put it
there. Which, as we've seen, then makes it kind of more difficult for you to do things as you're kind of under the hail of gunfight. It hasn't injured you, but it has, given you this winded thing that's going to make it more difficult for you to act in the future. We would then cancel as many shields as possible with nullifies. Neither of us have any shields or nullifies. That's from the text dial on the 3rd row. And then lastly, we cancel as many hits as possible with any evasion, armour or shield that we have left over. So have you got any?
I have 1 hit.
You have one hit. So I have an armour, which is going to stop that hit and get rid of it. Now, you might ask, why would the skitters choose a hit in the defensive setup like this? And the reason for that is, if you get a hit through, you can trigger your war trigger for that unit. So even though you're not going to do any damage because you're not necessarily attacking back in this particular situation, although we'll see that you can do, by selecting the hit, you had a chance of triggering the horrors war trigger, which is Horrify, which would put a winded card on the Sarge. But I thought that might happen, so I still put an armour in. And again, that's why I might put some armour in, even though I know I'm not being attacked back. So I'm not doing it to prevent myself from taking damage. I'm doing it to stop Russell from getting his war trigger off. So with that left, I've got the 3 hits, but you had an evade left that you didn't use, right?
Correct.
So that's going to take me down to 2. So when all's said and done, I'm left with just 2 hits. So if I look at my battle rifle, there's 2 damage numbers. It's 1/2. So the number before the slash is my normal damage. The number after the slash is my critical damage. I didn't get any of my critical hits through. I just got my 2 regular hits through. But we'll notice the battle rifle has the special rule burst 1. So what that means is, once we've resolved everything that we've done there through that symbol cancellation, if there's at least 1 hit got through, and I got 2 through, I get additional hits equal to the burst value of the weapon. So I'm going to go back up to 3 hits coming through. So at the end I've scored 3 hits, which is going to be 3 points of damage with this weapon. So I'm going to allocate 3 wounds, and as the attacker, I choose where I'm going to allocate them. I do have to pick someone. I've got a model I've got line of sight to. So if this rear skitter had been injured, but maybe hiding behind a wall somewhere, I would have to have chosen to allocate them into here. So the positioning of your individual models matters in that way. We're going to place 3 wounds against this particular model here. Now, what's the endurance of the skitters?
The skitters have an endurance of 7.
So I'm a way off destroying a model there, but I have managed to get a little bit of damage through. I stopped myself from taking any additional winded cards from the Horrify, and I managed to get a winded card on you with my armour piercing. So that was a reasonable resolution. Now the other thing is I had 3 hits coming through, which means I can also use my war trigger on the double, which would allow me to move 3 inches if I wanted to. But I think I'm happy with where I am at the minute, so I'm going to stay where I am. So it is optional whether I use that or not, and in this case I'm going to stay where I am. And with that is my action done with, and it's back over to you, Russell.